wanted to have a chat, and we're going to do this, once a week. We're going to do a little chat about the business of gymnastics, and you being the creatively disruptive, the gymnastics marketing group's business coach. We're going to talk a little bit about thoughts about opening and reopening and staying open, which I know is of a concern for many right now. And we're working really hard as Creatively Disruptive, helping gyms reopen and get in front of the community, making sure that the community knows that you are existing and still in business, which is really important. And many of you out there probably struggle a little bit with that. But probably what's more important is organizing the resources that you have already and making the most out of that. And really, I've got to say, I'll talk on Kim's behalf, because she probably won't say it about herself. She's definitely an expert at making sure you squeeze as much out of the resources that you currently have, which I think is really important. So we're trying to build up your resources, but we've also got to be very good with resources. So, what are you currently seeing with what's going on currently? I know you're working really hard and you're doing lots of stuff. So what are your thoughts on all of this stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been difficult. I've had my work cut out for me because of the way that the US is set up and different states are opening at different times. I'm sort of collecting information from gym owners at a different pace and just trying to make sense of all of it. So I've taken the approach of stepping back, trying to operate from a 30,000-foot view and just collect as much information and data from gyms and parents and all of the sources possible to keep my thumb on what's going on. That being said, I think there's probably some common threads amongst everybody. When we're reopening, we're all going to have to be socially distant. We already know that for a period of time. We might have some square footage cuts. All of our reopens are going to look different than the person next to us. So how do you manage that? Well, hopefully we've kind of already been looking at how we can cut our expenses. We know that in order to kind of squeeze as much as we can out of our cash that we have to be cutting expenses. We have to be getting more efficient with our time and our staff. But one thing that's really important to keep in mind is not neglecting the profitability of what it is that you're selling. I've been speaking a lot this week about the difference between sales and profit, the difference between trying to solve a cash flow problem versus solve your profitability problem.
Right.
So, happy to talk on that. Don't want to overwhelm, but
well, there is that thing that they say that quote, which is, sales is vanity, profit is sanity. Right.
Yes.
So, people do tend to focus a lot on getting sales and money coming through. If you're not keeping much of it, what's the point?
Yeah, and especially right now, because we have these staff challenges to deal with too. The problem is when you sell something, and especially when you sell a service like gymnastics, that comes with obligation and responsibility. You're taking cash in return for performing a service. And if you don't have the staff to perform that service, if that falls on you, well, that's extra stress, right? And profit is not just finances. Profit comes in terms of health and mental state as well, right? So all of these things really add up. And if we're just selling to get cash in the door, but we can't actually deliver the service and in a profitable way, then that's really just kicking the can down the road. We're just going to kind of self-combust later as opposed to now. So we have to, as gym owners, be looking at ways to figure out how much money we're actually making on those things that we're selling right now.
And kind of like, what kind of things can gym owners do? Obviously, they have operating systems and so forth. I know a lot of gym owners don't use half the reports and so forth that they could with Jackrabbit and iClass Pro and the other operating systems that are out there. But what can gym owners do to kind of like get a bit of grasp of what their profitability lines are? Because reading statements and looking at business statements and understanding your P&L is it's a true tenor on any business. Any good business should have a real good grasp on their P&L and almost to a weekly point of view, so they can be agile, especially right now. But what would you suggest most gym owners do that might be kind of much more coach orientated to get a
Yeah.
handle on that? And it's kind of stressful too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's super stressful. And I think because it's super stressful, you don't want to take on, especially if you're not a numbers person, you don't want to take on the added task of having to learn how to read a P&L from your accountant if you already didn't know how to do that, right? So sometimes in the short term, and especially right now when we're going through a crisis, you want to understand your in-house cash management. So a really easy way to do that is to make yourself a class P&L spreadsheet, just to understand even what it looks like when you're running a class with 3 kids. Do you know how much that costs you? Do you know if you're losing money on a Monday night? Do you know if you're making money on a Tuesday night? And especially now, since we have to reduce headcount and square footage, that spreadsheet, or even just a piece of paper at minimum, is going to be your lifeblood. You have to know what's going on inside your gym to make good decisions right now about what you're selling and whom you're selling to and whom you're bringing in your gym as you're rephasing kids in.
Right.
And I'll give you a quick example. A big question I've heard a lot lately is, should I be doing private lessons at a higher dollar amount, or should I be doing group classes at a lower dollar amount, but with more kids? And my answer is, that depends on you. That depends on what your prices are. That depends on what your costs are. That depends on what you're giving up. How many kids are you allowed to have in your gym right now? And how many coaches do you have available to be working that night? So there's a lot of factors. If there are gym owners out there listening, if you don't have a quick and easy spreadsheet, I can give you one. I have one that's super easy to email, or I'm happy to give it to Andy or post it wherever. But that's a really good step, is to find out what your class P&Ls are.
And what kind of things go into a class P&L when like, if you were just explaining, like, what would be on the expense side of a P&L?
So it's mainly labor, right? We're kind of just looking, without overwhelming you with jargon, we're kind of just looking at direct costs. So that would be your staff labor per hour, any taxes, your payroll taxes that you're paying on top of them, and then any costs associated with perks or benefits that you're giving them. Maybe you want to add in, if you bought a big old bucket of bubbles for preschool class, if you have some very obvious direct costs per class or per night, you could lump that in there as well. We're not really going to worry about rent and utilities and the indirect costs that we have at the moment, just for our inner cogs and our inner working nightly base to get an understanding of what's happening, just those direct costs of labor. Okay.
Right.
So on the spreadsheet that I have, I list out all my people, Kelly, Mariah, Megan, whomever, how much they make per hour. That feeds directly into my first tab, which tells me, okay, I'm running a Monday night, 5 o'clock, basic beginner class. Kelly's working it for 1 hour. I have 8 kids in that class. Here are the costs associated with Kelly. How much money did I make from that class a month? Super easy.
Yeah. And, I guess when you do that, it makes it easier for, to figure out scheduling. You can have a look at what days are more profitable than others. There's obviously, we all know, I think everyone has a sense of stuff. I mean, I know for myself, I oftentimes have a sense, and my sense is pretty close to what it is, but we need to know. We need to know to the penny. We can't be just thinking a gut feeling, well, I think this class is doing well, or this day is doing well. We need to know to the penny, because I'll say this, from my own experience, especially going through the Great Recession, so to speak, and running the business that I'm running right now, knowing the numbers, there's a really good feeling of relief knowing the situation, even if the situation's not as good as I want it to be. Knowing the situation takes a lot of stress out of my day, because then I know what I need to do, or what I need to work on to improve my situation. When you don't know your situation, so much more stress involved with that, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I totally agree. And that's what it's about, is having that sense of control right now. That's what is going to help control your panic level during the rephase. Just having a sense of control and understanding that you are empowered enough to make good decisions for yourself. That's huge right now. Huge.
Yeah. And I mean, we have 13 people watching right now that I'm sure are all kind of considering what's going on, because we've got to be looking at, that some of them might be open already. Some of them might be planning to open shortly. Some of you guys, I'm guessing, might also have be thinking, man, what do I really want to do? I've spoken to a number of gyms lately that are trying to figure out whether or not they should even be open ever. Like that because the stress is just so much and it's overwhelming. What I wanted to say, what I wanted to share is that I think when you know everything, when you know every part of your business, and you can see the landscape truly, and you can see the options truly of what you can do, what the costs of doing, of maybe marketing your business a little bit more smartly, the benefits of that, the cost, the whole 9 yards of everything, it makes it much more easy to make a really good decision. I think some people have closed their businesses because they're just run down. It's just too much. It's just too much stress. I've seen that several times where I can read it in the post or the comments that I've had, or the messaging, or some of them I've spoken to on the phone. And it's just done emotionally, right? If we can get to the facts and figures, sometimes we can make things feel a lot better either way. So when they make the decision to close, makes sense. The figures say this is going to be a really tough haul to change this. So maybe look at selling the gym on, or merging it with another gym. But conversely, oftentimes when you go through the numbers, you see, well, actually, with a little tweak here and a little bit of effort here, I can actually get back on track a lot quicker. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it all comes down to your mission. You know, when you put things in the view of, if I had $1 million after this virus was gone, would I feel better? If money was not a part of this, would I feel great about running my gym? If that's yes, then money is a solvable problem. It truly, truly is. If that answer is still no, there's no amount of money that you could pay me to go back in that gym.
Right.
you should probably close up shop. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that, honestly,
Right.
because in gymnastics, we want those people working with our children to have passion, be fresh, be there for the right reasons, not be so stressed out that they're saying the wrong things. And you know how that spirals. So it's absolutely worth looking at to make sure that going back to the gym is something that you're committed to after this.
So, if there was one thing that somebody, like when they're starting on the road of reopening from getting themselves efficient and moving forward, what would be step one in your mind?
Oh gosh.
I know it's a question to throw at you, but what would be, like, there's many steps to get to it and many things, but what would be the first thing that you would suggest someone takes very seriously to get back up and going?
I mean, I might be biased here, but honestly, your financial landscape. And what that means to me is, do you have control of your expenses? Do you know what they are? Lots of people don't. Are you just winging it? Or do you actually have a plan for how you're handling your money? Do you know what your profits are? It's okay if you're not profitable. It's absolutely okay if you are not profitable as a gym, but you have to have a plan to get there. You have to understand how important profitability is for your organization, because that gives you freedom to make great decisions for your children and your families. That gives you freedom to pay your own bills. It takes the stress off of you. And it makes this a viable career for the people you employ. And that's also really important. So long story short, I would have to say the first thing that you need to do to make sure your ship doesn't sink is get a hold of your finances.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they hear that, it's a bit scary, right? Because some people hide from it because they don't really want to know, because it's more, because like, I'm sure it's not going to be a good story, so I don't really want to know. I'd rather just muddle through, right? But I've got to say, and from my experience, knowing the numbers feels so much better than not knowing the numbers and worrying about it. You're having those moments when you're sitting on your back looking up at the ceiling going, oh gosh, am I going to be able to make payroll? Oh my gosh, can I make rent? Or am I going to have enough money coming in? And those thoughts are going, because I don't know. Even if I knew that I can't, there's not, our brains have this amazing ability to kind of, like, if we know the situation and we cannot do anything about it, we will worry less. But if we kind of don't know and we're kind of thinking, how do we, it just runs through our head all day and we can't get on top of things. And I think mental well-being for you as a gym owner is right now tremendous because we're leaders, right? You're leading a staff, oftentimes a younger staff of people that are looking up to you. Oftentimes in our communities, we're a serious part of many, many families' lives. So, to have it together a little bit and be that rock in an ocean of scary, tumultuous times, if that's even a word, tumultuous, can actually be a real positive that people are attracted to and want to be a part of. Would you agree?
Yeah. This is just a great time to refresh and replan, redesign. Everyone's at startup phase right now.
Yep.
Whether we wanted to be, whether we plan to be, everybody, even if you were a 20-year gym, guess what? You are now a startup again. Yep. So this is a fantastic time to redesign what you want your gym to look like. So if you take an assessment of your systems and your operations, your staffing, your sales, your marketing, all the things, and you decide that there's something that you don't understand, that you don't like, that's not working for you. The good news is, with all of the collaboration happening in gymnastics right now, which is mind-blowing because I've been waiting on this for 30 years. I'm glad it's happening now, but the good news is everything is available right now to you.
Yeah.
Everyone and everything is available to help. There is help for your finances. I enjoy it, which is crazy because I was in remedial math class, right? I was the girl in 7th grade who got put in the dumb math. I would never consider myself somebody fantastic with numbers, but what I've learned over the years is that it's not about math. It's not about numbers. It's about concepts. And you can understand your finances in very real concepts and very real paradigms, and you can see the cause and effect of making decisions with your money. And that's the kind of stuff that I love. And I just really love working with gym owners. I love small gyms. I love mom and pop gyms. I love the legacy gyms. Like I said, I really love the smaller gyms because there's room to grow. They do all this amazing work with all these kids on the ground level, but oftentimes they haven't slowed down enough to understand their finances and their systems. So there's just such an opportunity right now, and there's no reason not to tackle it.
And I totally subscribe to it. It's like an opportunity to reset, and I really do recommend everybody to embrace not knowing what you what you don't know. And many times we get so busy in our day-to-days, and we're so worried about the day-to-day stuff, and in a non-COVID kind of time frame, that we never give ourselves the time to actually learn and understand what is out there and how we can really do a better job, right? I can't tell you how many times I hear, we're doing everything. And then we start digging through in details and talking about different things, and we find out that, well, not everything's being done. And that's okay, but they didn't know what they didn't know. They didn't know that there was a lot of other options out there. There was a lot of other things that they could do. I spoke to a gym owner that was considering closing the other day, and I asked about what they were doing to get people in the community to know what they were doing, because obviously I'm on the marketing side of things. And she said, well, we're doing everything. And I said, well, what are you doing? And she went through it, and I'm like, well, there's probably 90% of the stuff that you could do that you're not doing. So take that as a positive, right? That's what I mean by embrace the not knowing what you don't know, that these are positive things. If we go through a list of things and, well, I'm not doing that really well. Well, I'm not doing that really well. Well, I'm not doing that really well. Yet I was still operating and I was still actually paying the bills.
Yeah.
What if you do these things really well, which isn't necessarily rocket science. It's just that you didn't know these things, right? And I really do suggest that everybody really embraces that, really embraces the not knowing what you don't know.
It always blows my mind because we work in gymnastics, and when you think about it, were we born knowing how to do a back handspring? No, we had to grow up. We had to go through all the steps to get there. And then we got a coach to teach us that, unless you're a backyard tumbler, but let's up it. Let's say a full or double back. Okay. Like, you wouldn't just go and chuck a double back on your own and wing it every day, right? You would find a coach. It always blows my mind that gym owners just assume that they should know how to run their business and how to do the marketing at an expert level and how to manage their finances on a business level. You know, they're just going to wing it and they'll figure it out every day. Well, maybe you can figure it out, but if you could pay a coach to cut out 10 years of mistakes, why wouldn't you do that?
Right.
We are coaches, and yet I find that a lot of us are so averse to hiring a coach for what they don't know.
Right.
But I think that's shifting lately.
And some of the most successful people that I know, they have mentors and coaches.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know 3 marketers who are exceptional. Like, many of you guys might actually know them. I know them personally, and they're in the millions of dollars of income, kind of like success financially. And they have mentors and coaches that they go to. I have 2 mentors and coaches that I work with from a marketing standpoint and a business standpoint. I was talking to one of my clients, one of my dearest clients that I love to death. And she was absolutely surprised that I have a mentor and a coach, because she thought, well, you seem to know what you're doing. Why do you? And I'm like, well, that's might be why I come across like I know what I'm doing, because I actually have some really good people that hold my hand and I go to when I'm like, geez, I don't know what I'm doing. What should I do here? And they fill in the gap and they help me through it. And on top of that, I'd count my attorney as a coach of mine. I count my accountant as a coach of mine, right? But outside of that, I actually have 2 business mentors. I'd call them mentors rather than coaches, that I go to all the time, and I pay them actually to work to make sure I have access to them. And you know, there's a couple of people that I reach out to and rely on that I don't pay to as well. But I think, you know, being okay with not knowing what you don't know, and embracing that, and embracing that learning opportunity. I know I'm kind of like pushing you a little bit because you are a gymnastics business coach, but working with someone like a Kim Ransom or another business coach in your industry is tremendous. It's a tremendous opportunity, because all of a sudden you don't feel alone. And I remember when I owned my gym, especially when the tough times hit, it was really hard. And I didn't even run it every day. My wife did the day to day. I had another job as well, but it was really stressful because I felt totally alone with major decisions that I knew I didn't really feel comfortable actually having any answers to. And that a lot of that was because I didn't have any coach on my team.
Yeah, I mean, we aren't robots, we're humans, and we need peer support, and that's the thing, you know, when you're making a change, you know, and especially now when we're going through this crisis. I think I just listened to this awesome talk from a business peer that I had, that I used to be in a business coaching program with a long time ago. We still talk. She's a doctor out in Denver. And she just said, you know, when you're making a change like this, especially through a crisis, you have to look at your situation and say, okay, what can I do? What are my options? I can do nothing. I can try things on my own, or I can pay someone to help me, or, you know, you can brainstorm a list of 10 things on a piece of paper. Those are my options. What can I do? But the next question is, what will I do? What am I willing to do? Let's be realistic. We're not always willing to pay a coach. We're not always willing to try all of the things on that list of that paper. But lastly, you need to understand, who do I need to be, and what's your mindset? Yeah. What kind of negativity do you have in your head? What hangups, what limitations do you have that you need to toss in the trash to get out of this situation? That's hard. Sometimes that can be really hard. But, you know, when you have support, peer support, a mentor, business coach, whatever it is that you decide to do, those people can help you move through those 3 steps and kind of get through that. And if, you know, anybody watching, if you could take away one thing from this, I think you absolutely need to sit down and go through those 3 questions for yourself. What can I do? What am I willing to do? And who do I need to be to get through this?
Right. Yep.
That's probably even more important than your finances, right?
And I think with that, you know, we'll wrap this up. Kim and I are planning to do this little conversation once a week. I'd like it to be at the same time if we can. Kim, we'll figure that out and we'll let everybody know. But once a week, we're going to do a little business conversation about gymnastics to help you guys and to support you guys. Know that you're not alone. You're really not alone. I mean, the Gymnastics Marketing Group is here to help you in a very real sense. Some of you are starting to understand that. Some of you probably are still not 100% sure, but in a very real sense, we want to help you. And, you know, Kim is part of the team. You can ask her questions in the group, just tag her, and she'll be, you know, I'm sure, like cruising through posts and so forth and checking stuff out. And we're here to help. And if you want to engage directly with Kim, please reach out to her. I can personally say that I vouch for her and she's great and she really cares. And that's really important to me. I think many of you who know me know that I really have a deep-seated, I don't want to use the word care because it sounds like care, but I really am motivated to make sure you guys are okay in a very real sense. So, you know, if we can really help you guys have a better time of it, come to the Gymnastics Marketing Group, check out what's going on and engage with Kim. Kim's there to help. And we're going to be having this conversation once a week. I'm hoping around about the same time. If that works out for you, Kim, we can just keep this going.
Works for me.
So next week, look for us on Wednesday. We'll have another topic. We'll throw that out there. Or if you guys have some ideas of business topics that you might want to cover, throw them in the comments in here. I'm also going to be placing this on our YouTube channel. So if you want to have a look at Creatively Disruptive's YouTube channel, we have a lot of stuff on there with training and so forth. So go to our YouTube channel, which is go to YouTube and type in Creatively Disruptive in the search and you'll be able to find us. And there's lots of information. As Kim said, this community, gymnastics community, has really come together. There is a ton of assistance that really is just wanting to help and make sure that you know that you're not alone. So with that, I'll let you have the last word, Kim, and we'll finish up.
Yeah, no, that's great. Just, you know, thanks for the chat. And I look forward to a weekly chat. Please reach out with questions because I'm trying to keep these conversations relevant and current. So I need to know what everyone is struggling with so we can approach it. But I look forward to talking to all of you.
Talk to you soon, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.